Today's video is 6-5 and it's all about solving proportions. So when we solve these proportions, we're going to have two fractions. So maybe we have a 5 on top of a 9 and a 15 on top of an x. What comes to mind first? Is there any way that you think you could figure out x? If I have a 5 and a 15, a 9, and what goes here? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that I could do 5 times 3 to make 15, so I could do the same pattern on the bottom, and x would be 27. Okay, so it's just as simple as making patterns. Maybe I have 24 over x equals, let's go 48 over 82. Okay, so looking at these numbers, can you figure out any patterns? Well, I think 48 divided by 2 would equal 24, so I'm going to do the same pattern on the bottom. And what would x be? 41. 82 divided by 2 is 41. Now what happens when there is no pattern? So let's say I have 5 over 9 and 14 over x. If it was 15, it was nice. There was a pattern. But there's no pattern this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply diagonally. If I multiply the green stuff, it just means I smush it together. If I multiply my yellow stuff, 14 times 9 is 36, carry the 3, 9, 10, 11, 12, I get 126. This direction I smush, this direction I get an actual answer. 5x equals 126. Well, we know how to solve that. That's just a one-step equation. We sing the song. Divide by 5, divide by 5, cross out. What's my answer? Well, I can't do it in my head, so let's actually work it out. 5 goes into 12 twice, which is 10. Subtract, bring down. 5 goes into 26 5 times. Subtract. I get a 1. So I could say 25 and 1/5, or I could add a 0. Oops, not a 0 up there. And bring it down and get a 2. So I could have a decimal answer. Either one, they're both great. But let's go back. Pattern was nice, but pattern doesn't always work. Cross multiply. Multiply diagonally and get green, get yellow. Green and yellow. Then I'm left with an equation that I can solve by dividing. So really there's two steps. Patterns would always work you can use a pattern if it'll work, but step 1 is to cross multiply. Step 2, you'll end up dividing. Cross multiply and divide. Okay, let's try this one. 7/8 equals something over 10. Cross multiply. It doesn't really matter, so I think I'll write 8x on the left and 70 on the right, but I could write them either way. This just means smush. This is an actual answer. Now I have 8x equals 70. Divide by 8, divide by 8. Cross out what's my answer. Well, 8 goes into 72 9 times, so this must be 8 times. 8 goes into 70 8 times with 6 left over, but I should simplify that. So my final answer is 8 3/4. Your first question, tell me what you get when you cross multiply. Type in what the equation will be when you cross multiply. Did you say 11x equals 160? It would be fine if you say 160 equals 11x. It doesn't matter who's on the left and who's on the right, as long as you get 160 this direction and 11 smushed with x this direction. Alright, your second question is, when you divide, what are you going to get as a final answer? All right, the two answers you could have typed in are 14 and 6/11 or 14.54 repeating. All right, next question. Let's put 3.4, ooh, a decimal, on top of another decimal. And let's put, let's go 9.7 on top of x. It is fine, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it is okay if you want to pull out a calculator and cross multiply and divide with your calculator, but you still got to show me all of your work. So your next question is, what do you get when you do the cross multiply step? Just the cross multiply step. You should have typed in 3.4x equals 50.925. I smush 3.4 with x, and when I multiply these, my calculator said 50.925. Now, what's the final answer?